What if I told you that the life you're living right now is just a shadow of the life you could be living if you took back just 1 hour of your day? 1 hour, and you're wasting it. You think you don't have time, but time isn't your enemy. It's your weapon if you learn to use it. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how one sacred hour a day could rewrite your destiny. Some of the wealthiest minds, the most resilient leaders, and the most fulfilled creators didn't have more talent than you. What they had was a commitment to one focused hour a day. No distractions, no excuses, no compromises. They built dreams not overnight, but hour by hour. That 1 hour was their non-negotiable, a temple where doubt was exiled and action was king. What if you had that? What if your greatest leap forward wasn't about doing more, but mastering 1 hour that belongs only to your highest self? Definitiveness of purpose is the starting point of all transformation. It is the mental act of deciding clearly, precisely, and without hesitation what you want from your life. Without it, your energy scatters, your time becomes reactive, you move not with intent but with inertia. But when you devote 1 hour a day to a clearly defined purpose, everything changes. That hour becomes a magnet. It pulls your focus together. It orders your chaos. It says to the world, this is what I'm here for. Those people drift. They wake up reacting to alarm clocks, emails, notifications, and other people's agendas. Their thoughts are foggy. Their energy is divided. They spend their days working for someone else's vision while their own dreams rust quietly in the attic of neglect. This isn't due to lack of ambition. It's due to lack of clarity. And clarity doesn't appear out of thin air. It must be cultivated, fed, and reinforced. That's where your hour comes in. Give it to your purpose. Not randomly, not vaguely, but intentionally. Say to yourself, this hour is sacred. This hour is for my mission. Then ask the hard question, what exactly is that mission? What are you building, shaping, striving toward? If you don't have that answer yet, your hour becomes the place where you find it. You read, you reflect, you write. You mine the depths of your own desire and truth. You don't guess what you want. You discover it. Once defined, your purpose gives direction to your hour. Every minute becomes aligned. You no longer waste time wondering what to do because the decision is already made. You're not randomly productive. You're purposeful. You start reading the right books, practicing the right skills, writing the right plans. And because it's only 1 hour, it's manageable. You're not trying to climb the mountain in one leap. You're placing one intentional step every day on solid ground. The human mind craves meaning. It wants something to aim at. Without that aim, you're left drifting in confusion, and confusion breeds anxiety, procrastination, and stagnation. But with purpose, even if that purpose is ambitious, even if it feels far away, you create an inner compass. That compass doesn't remove fear, but it reduces noise. It silences the distractions because now you have a why stronger than your experience. People think motivation is what gets things done. It's not. Motivation is fleeting. Purpose is durable. And when you honor your purpose daily, in one small ritual, that purpose begins to harden into conviction. Conviction leads to discipline. Discipline leads to results, and results reinforce belief. A cycle is born, not of wishful thinking, but of daily alignment between thought, intention, and action. There is something powerful in the simplicity of a single hour. When attached to a definite purpose, it becomes a creative chamber, a proving ground, and over time, it becomes an identity. You stop saying, I wish I was a writer, and start becoming one, because you write every morning. You stop fantasizing about being an entrepreneur and begin building, sketching, planning every evening. 1 hour, again and again, teaches you that you are not a dreamer, you are a doer, someone with a direction and a discipline. The outside world won't always reward you quickly. People may not see the quiet battles you win in those 60 minutes. But that doesn't matter, because something more important is happening. You start to believe. You start to move differently, talk differently, think differently, and the world eventually catches up. Definitiveness of purpose doesn't mean having all the answers. It means having a target, something real, something specific, and dedicating time to it consistently. 1 hour may seem small, but when tied to that clear target, it becomes the most important part of your day. Not just a habit, but a declaration, a stand, a decision made over and over again. Not in noise, not in public, but in quiet, disciplined solitude, where real lives begin to change. The power of habit is invisible at first. It begins as a choice, small, seemingly insignificant. But over time, that choice becomes a path, then a groove, then a part of your identity. When you dedicate 1 hour a day to a focused pursuit, what you're really doing is shaping who you are, not all at once and not in a way the world can immediately see, but in a slow, deliberate transformation that builds below the surface. Repetition is the sculptor. The habit is the chisel. Most people misunderstand habit. They think of it as something automatic, something dull or mechanical. But habit is not passive. It is active creation. It is the act of teaching your mind and body to align with a vision. When you repeat an action every day at the same time, you're not just creating a routine, you're declaring that this moment matters. You're programming yourself to value progress, growth, and self-respect. And more importantly, you're removing the need for daily decision-making. Without habit, every day becomes a negotiation. Should I do it today? Do I feel like it? Maybe I'll skip and start tomorrow. This mental tug-of-war drains energy before any progress is even made. But when a habit is formed, there is no longer a debate. There is only execution. 1 hour. No questions, no excuses. Just the work. That's the beauty of habit. It eliminates friction. Think of the people who achieve mastery in any field. Artists, athletes, inventors, entrepreneurs. What separates them from the crowd is not raw talent, it's consistency. They've trained themselves to show up whether they feel like it or not. They've learned to respect the process, not just the result. 1 hour a day might not look like much from the outside, but compounded over weeks and months, it becomes a force. Because in those hours, you're not only practicing skills, you're strengthening the habit muscle itself. There's a point in habit formation when it starts to carry you. In the beginning, it's hard, you resist it, you may even resent it. But with time, the resistance fades. The repetition turns into rhythm. What was once effort becomes momentum. That hour no longer feels like a task, it feels like a part of who you are. And that's when real change begins, because identity is shaped by what you do repeatedly. When you sit down each day and give your attention to one purpose, one pursuit, you're affirming something to yourself. This matters, I matter, my time matters. That affirmation, repeated daily through action, rewires your brain. New neural pathways are formed, patterns are established, and your self-concept begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and fails, and begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. There's also a hidden power in the ritual itself. When you attach your hour to a specific time, place, and context, it becomes easier to protect. You begin to associate that chair, that desk, that notebook, or that stretch of time with focus and forward motion. Your mind knows what to expect. Distractions weaken, excuses dissolve. That environment cues you into action, and the repetition deepens the association. It becomes your training ground, your personal workshop for transformation. Habit is not glamorous, it's not always exciting, but it is honest. It reveals who you really are when no one is watching, and that is where power is built. Not in sudden breakthroughs, but in quiet, repeated acts of discipline. Each time you show up for your hour, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, you send a message to yourself. I don't need to feel ready. I just need to begin. That message, repeated over days, over weeks, becomes internalized. What's remarkable is that eventually you'll reach a place where not doing the habit feels strange. You'll miss it. You'll feel off when you skip it. That's when the habit has fully taken root. It's no longer a practice. It's who you are. 1 hour a day, no matter how small it seems, becomes a lifeline to a stronger, more focused, more resilient version of you. Through habit, you stop chasing change and start becoming it. The compounding effect is one of the most misunderstood forces in personal development. It's quiet, it's slow. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or instant results, but over time it becomes unstoppable. When you dedicate 1 hour a day to a focused pursuit, you're not just spending time, you're investing it. And like any wise investment, it doesn't grow linearly. grows exponentially. The results you see at first might be small, almost invisible. But those small gains are not the end goal. They're the foundation. They are the seeds. And if you stay consistent, they multiply in ways you can't predict at the beginning. Most people quit too early because they expect immediate feedback. They want transformation to happen in a week, success in a month, recognition in a few tries. But that's not how the compounding effect works. You don't see what's happening beneath the surface. You can't measure the depth of a root system while it's still growing. But if you give it time, steady, focused time, it will eventually break through the ground with force. 1 hour a day doesn't look powerful at first, but over weeks and months, the difference it makes is staggering. Imagine reading 10 pages of a book every day in your dedicated hour. That doesn't sound like much, but over a year, that's 3,650 pages, about 18 to 25 books. Imagine writing 500 words a day. That's a full-length novel in 3 months. Practicing a skill for 1 hour each day gives you over 360 hours of deep work in a year, enough to achieve more progress than most people make in a lifetime of vague intent. The magic is not in the size of the daily action. It's in the consistency and the patience to let those actions accumulate. This is how mastery is built, not through bursts of enthusiasm, but through layered experience. Every hour builds on the last. Every repetition sharpens the skill just a little more. Every page, every idea, every note taken or step practiced stacks up. And the more you build, the stronger the foundation becomes. The compounding effect kicks in full force when your knowledge, skill, or confidence starts to increase faster than your effort. It's when things begin to snowball. That's when people around you start noticing. They call you talented, lucky, or gifted, but what they're really seeing is the quiet power of compounded effort. They weren't there for the early days, the slow days, the days when it felt like nothing was happening, but you were. You stayed. And that's what made the difference. Because compounding doesn't reward the intense, it rewards the consistent. You don't need to be extreme in your effort, just faithful in your process. The beauty of the compounding effect is that it extends beyond skills and knowledge. It compounds in your confidence, your mindset, your habits. The discipline you build by showing up daily starts to spill over into other areas of life. You eat better, you think clearer, you react slower. Why? Because you've proven to yourself day after day that you can follow through. That belief compounds too. It creates a new standard for how you live. It's important to remember that the early phase of compounding is where most give up. The results are too small, too quiet, too subtle to feel satisfying. But if you understand the nature of compounding, you stop chasing the outcome and start honoring the process. You realize that growth isn't something you see daily. It's something you measure in seasons, in years. And eventually you look back and realize you've built something remarkable, not in one leap, but in thousands of small, consistent steps. That's the power hidden inside one focused hour a day, not because the hour itself is magical, but because time, effort, and intention, when combined with patience, create momentum that no shortcut ever could. Compounding doesn't ask you to be perfect, it asks you to show up again and again, because the one who compounds will always outrun the one who waits for the perfect moment to begin. Here's what I challenge you to do. Starting tonight, carve out 1 hour, no phone, no noise, just you and the mission. Read, write, build, study, practice, plan, whatever moves you forward. Because if you can't find 1 hour to chase your dream, don't lie to yourself and say it matters. Mental discipline is the quiet strength that separates those who wish from those who do. It is not about force, but about focus. It's the ability to take control of your attention, your reactions, and your thoughts, especially when it would be easier to give in to distraction, emotion, or fatigue. When you commit to 1 hour a day, devoted fully and without compromise to your growth, you're not just working on a project or a goal. You're training your mind to obey your will instead of being pushed around by every... At first, it feels difficult. Your brain resists structure. It craves novelty, stimulation, and quick rewards. You sit down to work and suddenly everything else seems more interesting. The phone buzzes, the mind wanders, the body fidgets. But each time you pull your attention back, even for a few more minutes, you're building strength. You're teaching your mind who's in charge. It doesn't happen in a single day. It happens through repetition. It happens in that single sacred hour when you say, "This time is mine, and I will not break my promise to it." People often think discipline is about restriction, but in truth, it is about freedom. The more control you develop over your thoughts and choices, the less control the outside world has over you. You no longer need to wait for motivation. You don't depend on perfect conditions or the right mood. You sit down and begin, regardless of how you feel. That's power. That's how creators, leaders, and high performers separate themselves from the masses, by consistently acting on their values, not their feelings. And it begins with one small window of time. Guarded and repeated daily, each hour of focused effort becomes a mental challenge. You're not just fighting procrastination, you're building endurance. You're learning to sit with discomfort, to continue even when the mind wants to run. This is the same mental strength that carries over into every area of life. The patience to handle stress, the calm to respond instead of react, the presence to fully engage in what matters. That 1 hour, repeated over time, is a training ground, not just for skill, but for control. Mental discipline grows in the absence of immediate reward. When you work on something important day after day with no applause, no paycheck, no visible progress, your ability to stay with it becomes your advantage. Most people quit in that phase. They tell themselves it's not working. They look for something easier, something faster. But those who stay, they're developing a rare kind of strength. They're building the ability to persist, to focus, to delay gratification, all of which are essential for anything truly worthwhile. You begin to notice changes. Your tolerance for distraction shrinks. Your ability to concentrate deepens. You're not pulled as easily by temptations or emotions. You create mental space where before there was only noise, and that space becomes the foundation for better decisions, clearer thinking, and faster progress. Not because your life has become easier, but because your mind has become stronger. And that strength came from doing the hard thing consistently when no one was watching. The discipline you build in your dedicated hour also strengthens your relationship with yourself. Each time you keep the promise to show up, even when it's inconvenient, you rebuild trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence. Not loud surface-level confidence, but a quiet certainty. You know you can rely on yourself. You know you can endure, focus, and follow through. That's rare in a world full of distraction and inconsistency. Mental discipline is a choice, not once, but daily. It's choosing structure over chaos, depth over surface, intention over reaction. And the more you choose it, the easier it becomes. You stop chasing motivation because you've developed something far stronger, the ability to act without it. That kind of control doesn't happen by accident. It's built in the hour you give yourself each day, the hour that teaches your mind to listen, to obey, and eventually to lead. Time ownership is one of the most overlooked forms of personal power. Everyone is given the same 24 hours, yet how those hours are used determines everything, from income to health, from confidence to clarity, from failure to legacy. Most people don't realize they've surrendered control of their time. They give it away in small, unnoticed moments, scrolling, reacting, delaying, drifting. They move through their day as if time is infinite, when in reality it is the most limited and non-renewable resource they have. To take back just 1 hour a day is not merely a productivity hack. It's an act of self-respect. 1 hour is only 4% of a day. It's not a sacrifice, it's a reclaiming. It's the moment when you step out of reaction mode and into creation mode. In that hour, you stop being a servant to circumstance and start becoming the architect of your life. But for that to happen, the hour must be claimed with intention. It cannot be borrowed from leftover energy. It cannot be squeezed in randomly between obligations. It must be carved out deliberately, defended ruthlessly, and honored consistently. When you take ownership of that 1 hour, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. You no longer feel like life is happening to you. You stop playing defense. You gain leverage over your day. It doesn't matter if the rest of your schedule is chaotic, if your job is demanding, if your responsibilities are heavy. That single hour is yours. It belongs to your higher self, the part of you that plans, builds, grows, and dreams. And when you protect it fiercely and repeatedly, you're sending a signal to your mind. I matter. My time matters. My future matters. Most people wait for the perfect moment to start owning their time. They wait for less stress, more clarity, better circumstances, but that moment never arrives. Life doesn't slow down on its own. The demands don't ease up by accident. Taking back time requires a conscious decision to say no to distraction, to busyness, to the illusion of urgency. It means recognizing the cost of always being available, of always saying yes, of always putting yourself last. That cost is your potential, and it is paid in silence over years. You don't need 10 extra hours a week. You don't need an elaborate system. You need 1 hour daily, consistent, and protected. Within that hour, you can build a business, write a book, learn a skill, plan your next move, or simply get clear on what matters most. The hour itself is not about quantity, it's about quality. It's about doing what is most important with your best focus, not what is most urgent with your leftover attention. When you begin to own your time, you also start to reshape your identity. You're no longer just someone with dreams, you're someone with discipline, someone who acts, not someone who waits. Each day that you take that hour, you reinforce that identity. You become less reactive, more grounded. You gain a sense of control that bleeds into every other area of your life. Your mood, your choices, your relationships. The person who owns even a small portion of their time begins to live deliberately, not by default. Others will notice. They might not understand it at first. They'll ask how you're doing more, why you seem more focused, how you're moving forward when they're stuck in place. But the answer is simple. You took back what was always yours. You stopped treating your time like spare change and started treating it like capital. And just like financial capital, invested wisely, your time begins to generate returns, compounded, invisible at first, but undeniable over time. This is not about being busy for the sake of it. It's about being intentional. It's about stepping into the role of creator instead of consumer, of leader instead of follower. Time ownership is the difference between drifting and designing, between regret and fulfillment. And it begins the moment you say, "This hour is mine. I won't waste it. I will use it to become who I'm meant to be." Creation over consumption is one of the most important yet rarely understood shifts you can make in your daily life. In today's world, it's easier than ever to consume. Scrolling endlessly through social media, binge-watching videos, flipping through news feeds, or passively absorbing other people's ideas and opinions. Consumption is effortless and often addictive, but it's a dead end when it comes to personal growth. Creation, on the other hand, demands focus, energy, and courage. It requires you to take what you've learned, what you've felt, and what you've imagined and transform it into something real. Whether that's writing a page, practicing a skill, building a project, or planning your future. Dedicating 1 hour a day to creation rather than consumption is a radical act of empowerment. Most people live their lives in consumption mode without realizing it. They spend hours watching what others have done, reading about possibilities, or comparing themselves to others. This creates a passive mindset where you become a spectator of your own life instead of the protagonist. Consumption feeds your mind with ideas and images, but does not feed your soul or your future. It leaves you feeling overwhelmed, distracted, and disconnected from your own potential. When you flip the script and spend 1 hour a day creating instead, you reclaim your power. You shift from being a consumer of other people's realities to a creator of your own. Creation is the act of bringing something new into existence. It can be as grand as launching a business or as simple as writing in a journal. The key is that it is an active process. It stretches your mind and tests your discipline. It forces you to move beyond comfort zones and excuses. When you commit to creating for 1 hour every day, you're telling your subconscious mind that your ideas and goals matter enough to deserve your time and energy. That alone starts to rewire your self-worth. You begin to see yourself not as someone who dreams or hopes, but as someone who does. The danger of consumption is that it often masquerades as productivity. People feel busy because they've read articles, watched tutorials, or absorbed information. But information without action is like a seed that never gets planted. It cannot grow. Creation is the planting, it is the soil, the water, the sunlight. Without it, knowledge stays dormant and potential remains unrealized. When you spend your hour creating, you convert ideas into experience, theory into practice, and dreams into steps. You build momentum that feeds itself. Another crucial aspect of choosing creation over consumption is the mindset shift it brings. When you create, you are vulnerable. You risk failure, imperfection, and criticism. Yet, through this vulnerability, you build resilience and confidence. You learn that progress is not about being perfect, but about being persistent. Each created piece, no matter how small or rough, is proof that you are moving forward. That proof strengthens your resolve to continue, day after day. Creation also sharpens your focus. When you consume, your attention is scattered, pulled by endless notifications and distractions. But creation demands your full presence. It asks you to prioritize, to make decisions, and to solve problems. That 1 hour of creation becomes a practice in deep work, which builds your ability to concentrate, think critically, and innovate. These skills extend beyond that hour, improving how you approach every challenge in life. Over time, creation builds identity. You stop thinking of yourself as a passive receiver and start thinking of yourself as an active producer. You see evidence of your own capabilities and growth. This identity shift is essential because it changes your relationship with time and effort. When you're creating, time feels invested, not lost. Effort feels meaningful, not draining. You begin to experience flow, the state where work and joy merge. Spending 1 hour a day creating rather than consuming is a statement of control. It is a way to guard your mental space and protect your future. It transforms your daily routine from one of distraction and reaction to one of intention and action. You become a builder of your life instead of a spectator watching others build theirs. This shift is not about rejecting all consumption. Learning, relaxing, and recharging are necessary, but creation must take priority. When creation leads your day, consumption serves it. You absorb knowledge to fuel your projects, rest to regain energy for your work, and reflect to refine your vision. The hour you dedicate to creation becomes the anchor around which your whole day orbits. In the end, creation over consumption is how you step into your true potential. It is how you stop waiting for life to happen to you and start making life happen for you. It is how you turn fleeting ideas into lasting achievements. By choosing creation for just 1 hour each day, you build a foundation for growth, confidence, and fulfillment that no amount of consumption can provide. In the quiet commitment of 1 hour a day lies a transformative power few fully grasp. It is within that hour that habits are forged, discipline is strengthened, and the compounding force of consistent effort begins to accelerate your progress. By owning your time with intention and choosing creation over consumption, you step off the treadmill of distraction and step into the driver's seat of your life. This small but sacred investment is not about instant results or fleeting motivation. It is about becoming the person capable of achieving the extraordinary. 1 hour a day can change your life because that hour is where your future begins.